Hey everyone! Today we are diving into something that is literally all around us. It shapes the music we listen to, the technology we use, even the medicines that keep us healthy. We're talking about intellectual property. So let's get right into this fascinating world of big ideas and the rules that try to contain them.
So let's just kick things off with a real head scratcher. How in the world can you own something that you can't physically hold? Like a song or an invention or a brand name. They're just ideas, right? Well, that is exactly what intellectual property is all about.
All right, so here's the textbook definition. Intellectual property, or IP for short, is all about the creations of the mind. Think of it as this big umbrella term that covers all those intangible things, from a brilliant piece of new code to the design of your favorite phone. Okay, so in this first part, we're going to break down what these rights actually are, why we even have them in the first place, and what they protect. It's all about trying to make something intangible feel tangible. Here's the most important thing to get. At its very core, IP law gives a creator a kind of temporary monopoly. For a limited time, they get to decide who uses their creation. It's not forever, and that's key, but it's a really powerful right that gives them control. So why do we do this? Well, it's this really interesting balancing act. On one hand, you have to incentivize people to create. These rights make it worthwhile for artists and inventors to pour their time and money into making new things. But, and this is the other side of the coin, the whole system is designed to eventually benefit all of us by encouraging those new ideas to get out into the world and enrich society. So what kind of stuff are we really talking about here? It's a huge range. You've got patents, which protect inventions. Then there's copyright, which covers things like books, music, and movies. Trademarks are all about protecting brand names and logos. Think of any famous logo you know. You've also got industrial designs, which protect how a product looks, and even geographical indications, which protect products that come from a specific place, like, say, Scotch whiskey. But here's the thing. Ideas don't care about borders. They just zip right across them. So that brings up a massive question. How do you protect an idea in a world that's so connected? That's what we're going to dig into next. How we went from a bunch of local rules to a global framework. And this is such a key question today. I mean, think about it. If you invent something in Germany, is it automatically protected in Canada? The short answer is no, not automatically. And that's exactly why we needed to build an international system to make it all work. And that system was built piece by piece over a long time. It really started back in the late 1800s with big agreements like the Paris and Berne Conventions. Those laid the groundwork for protecting inventions and art across borders. But the real game changer was in 1995 with something called the TRIPS Agreement. For the very first time, this deal linked intellectual property to global trade, and it basically forced every country in the World Trade Organization to meet certain minimum standards. This had a huge impact, especially for developing countries. So the whole point of these big international treaties is to create a system that everyone can rely on. They give creators and inventors confidence that no matter where their work ends up, their rights will be recognized and hopefully protected. Okay, now we are getting to the really interesting part. This is where things get, well, complicated. Because protecting an idea isn't always simple, especially when that protection starts to bump up against other fundamental human rights. So you've got these two big priorities pulling in opposite directions. On one side, you have intellectual property rights. They're all about the individual creator, their commercial interests, their right to benefit. But on the other side, you have human rights, these universal ideas that everyone deserves access to, like healthcare, education, and culture. And sometimes they just don't see eye to eye. And this quote just nails it. It gets right to the heart of the problem. These two systems are built on completely different ways of looking at the world. One is about temporary exclusion and control, right? The other is all about inclusion and universal access. They were never really designed to work together. Let's make this totally real for a second. This is the question that defines the whole debate. A company spends a fortune developing a new life-saving drug, and a patent lets them make that money back. But what happens when that same patent makes the drug so expensive that the very people who will die without it can't afford it? And this tension, this clash, it pops up everywhere. It's the right to health versus drug patents. It's the right to education versus the insane cost of copyrighted textbooks. It's a scientist's need for research data versus IP claims on that data. You can see how this debate really touches almost every part of our lives. So, the thing to remember, is that this isn't just some abstract argument for lawyers to have. The way we answer these tough questions has real, tangible effects on people's lives, on their health, on their opportunities. It forces entire countries to decide what they value most. When you strip away all the complexity, all the legal jargon, it really all boils down to this: one single fundamental challenge. How do we find the balance between rewarding innovation and making sure everyone has access to the benefits of that innovation? Okay, we've covered a ton of ground here, right? From what IP even is to these massive ethical debates playing out on the global stage. So what's the one thing you should walk away with?
I think the main takeaway is this. Intellectual property is a powerful tool that we invented. It was designed to push human progress forward. But it's not set in stone. It's a living, breathing set of rules that is constantly being argued about, challenged, and changed as our technology and our values evolve.
And that leads us to the final big question for the future. We live in a world of AI, of instant communication, of gene editing. The very definition of creation is changing right before our eyes. So how do we adapt these rules, many of which are over 100 years old, for the world we live in now and for the one we're building tomorrow? That's the question we'll leave you with.